Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let's talk about extremists, political extremists, violent extremists. What causes someone to go that route, to become politically extreme to the point where they become violent? I've known a few radical people, both on the left and the right. I've known a couple of these anarchist Antifa types, and I've known a couple on the other side, Nazi skinheads. I've known some guys with swastikas tattooed on their face, guys who are members of the Aryan Brotherhood or members of the Hammerskins or these types of groups. What causes someone to tattoo a swastika on them or to get so indoctrinated into a belief system that they become violent? And that's really what fascinated me, was just that aspect of extremists. Why would somebody go crazy like that? We say it's mental illness, but I think it's more of a natural progression. I think that it could happen to not anyone, but to a lot of people. I think that there's a large percentage of people that could, if they were pushed down that rabbit hole, could end up at that brick wall, making that decision. On the other side of this wall is violent action. And I think that's kind of how it happens. You see, typically someone will get indoctrinated into a belief system by their friends and by people around them. They get turned on to a new way of thinking. They get turned on to that new way of thinking by somebody more sophisticated than them. Not as a manipulation, not always. Sometimes it could be as a manipulation to get you to join our little cult, our little group. But most of the time it's just to educate. Oh, you didn't know? Well, let me turn you on to, and then they start spewing about replacement theory. And if it's something you've never heard of before, and you're particularly naive, and you happen to be depressed and angry and come from a broken home, and you have the conditions right, the conditions of weakness, where you already have these preconditions of depression, of anger, of hopelessness. Maybe you've been bullied, maybe you feel powerless, you feel ostracized and rejected and unloved and not respected. And through learning this political ideology, it can kind of give you a direction that becomes interesting, and it becomes a direction for your rage and your anger. And you quickly will find friends, and these people will bring you in because they're all desperate for friends, and they'll latch on to you. They all latch on to each other, and that can feel intoxicating for somebody who is particularly lonely, confused, or weak. The power of having people around you like that, even if they're really negative people, can be overwhelming. And I know this for myself when I hung out with gangs. And I knew that the gang, say for example the Mexican Mafia, I hung out with the Sureños for many years, became entrenched with these guys. And they were my only friends. At a point, I had civilian friends, normal friends, regular friends in the beginning, and then slowly I became more and more and more indoctrinated into their world and just kind of like a cult member. And I didn't even want regular friends. I kind of turned on all my regular friends. I don't want to have nothing to do with those motherfuckers no more. I only want to be around the gang. And I knew that they were killing people and selling drugs and involved in all kinds of horrible things, but these were my friends. They loved me, and I loved them back. They respected me, and I respected them back, and we became a family. And every family is flawed. But for a guy like me who had nothing else, I had nothing else. There is no love anywhere else. I'm on the fucking street corner, all alone, all the time. And here comes a group of men who are tattooed up, got muscles, are dominant, alpha, and they're just like, we love you. You are amazing to us. We think you're fucking awesome. I mean, I was just like, hell yeah, I'm with you. And people can run into these types of communities, particularly online, when they're falling down this rabbit hole of political extremism. And I don't know the websites that they go to. You know, it used to be these these forums, and forums were popular. They had 8chan and 4chan and these weird where conspiracy theorists and school shooters and terrorists and all kinds of really, bottom of this is the dark side of the internet. They would gather in these places, and I don't know if those things still exist, but when they would go, when somebody who is particularly frustrated and angry and been indoctrinated into or turned on to a new belief system that is hate-filled or extremist, even on the left, they find these communities, and you go into those forums or wherever these online communities are nowadays, and you would be embraced, like I was, by the Sureños. You'd be embraced by other people, and there you go. Within a day or two, you have a whole group of friends, and you're being turned on to more and more information, and you start to snowball downhill. You start to just become enveloped in this world. This is how these young extremists are born. You can take somebody who all they are is just weak. They're not mentally ill. They're just weak, and direct them down this route and turn them into, first they start off right wing, and then they go to the alt-right, and then you can snatch them out of the alt-right into one of the various subgroups that are a little bit more extreme, and then there's another level of, that's where you hit that brick wall. And see what happens to these young kids, they get turned on to extremist views. They go down that rabbit hole further and further and further. They get rid of all their normal friends, and the normal friends, your regular friends, are the rational voices. And then all you are is surrounded by these irrational voices spewing all the same bullshit that you want to hear, and you see the world through this filter. That filter makes you demented. All you see is more and more reasons why shit is fucked up. More and more examples to justify your theories. You start just pointing to stuff all day long. See? That's exactly what I'm fucking talking about. And you live in this realm of disgust. See, when you follow judgment with disgust, extreme disgust, we all are somewhat judgmental, but when you follow it with disgust, you get into this kind of real dark avenue of anger, which makes it easy for you to demonize your enemies as subhuman, as animals. These fucking disgusting fucking animals, and you can just sit there and go on with it. And once you're in that mode, it's easy to push someone like that to violence. In fact, that's typically where it goes if they stay in that mode of disgust and anger targeted at their enemy, what they perceive is their enemy. And every one of them, I've heard this over and over from people that have kind of been extremists in one way or another. You hit that wall. And that wall is when you wake up one day and you say, I can't fucking take it anymore. Something has to be done. And these guys, it's not that's the day that they go out with an AR-15 and shoot up a building. Maybe for some of them it is, but for many of them, when they've crossed that line and they're like, I can't take it anymore, something has to be done. And what that is violence. That's what they're talking. Something has to be done. They're thinking final solution. They're thinking, I have to go to war, civil war. The left has their violent extremists also. Never forget the Bernie Sanders follower who shot up the baseball game, or the softball game a few years back. I mean, that was terrible. It can happen on both sides, but it's the same syndrome mentality of something has to be done. And they start fantasizing. Every day, all day, fantasizing, plotting, and scheming of violence. And that's when someone has really gone to the dark side. Once somebody has gone down this rabbit hole of extremism and they hit this wall of something has to be done, if they can't pull back and just kind of be like, you know what, this scene is too much. I'm not ready to ruin my life over this bullshit. I'm not going to go and do anything that would get me killed or put in prison or harm anyone. That's just too much for me. I'm done with this shit. I'm just going to go live my life. If you can't do that, oh man, you're looking at the next fucking news story. And that's my experience with this shit. I don't know. It's all food for thought.